It was close to midnight when Daniel parked his car by the rusted iron gates of Blackthorn Cemetery. The place had been abandoned for decades, its graves cracked, headstones tilted, and vines twisting through broken statues of angels that looked more like demons in the moonlight. He wasn't there out of curiosity. He had been dared. His friends wanted proof that he spent an entire night inside the graveyard. "Film something," they told him. "Show us the dead rising." Daniel laughed it off earlier, but as he pushed the gates open and they screamed like tortured souls, a shiver ran down his spine. The silence inside was heavier than the darkness. No sound of birds, no rustle of leaves, just the stale breath of forgotten graves. He turned on his phone camera and whispered, "Here I am, inside Blackthorn. Let's see if the legends are true." The legend was simple. No one left the cemetery after midnight. They said the dead were restless, cursed by a gravedigger who once buried people alive for money. Locals swore you could still hear scratching beneath the earth. Daniel walked deeper. His flashlight beam slid across rows of headstones, some engraved with names that had eroded into unreadable scars. Then he stopped. A fresh grave. The soil was too dark, too damp, as if it had been dug only hours ago. But the cemetery had been abandoned for years. The phone's camera shook in his hands as he crouched closer. The dirt moved, just slightly as though something underneath was shifting. He laughed nervously. Probably an animal. Then a faint, muffled sound. Scratching. Daniel froze. The scratching grew louder, desperate. He whispered, "No, no, no!" As the soil pushed upward, a pale, withered hand burst out, clawing at the night air. His scream echoed through the graveyard, but no one heard it. No one living anyway. He ran, the phone bouncing wildly, catching glimpses of shadows darting between the graves. He swore he heard footsteps chasing him, but when he spun around, nothing was there. Just empty headstones staring at him like open eyes. His light flickered, then died. The cemetery swallowed him whole. In the pitch-black silence, whispers began. Hundreds of voices at once, speaking names, crying, begging. They came from the graves, from the soil beneath his feet. The ground vibrated, and then he felt it. Cold hands wrapping around his ankles, pulling him down. He screamed and kicked, falling to the dirt. His phone landed nearby, still recording. The last thing the camera captured was his terrified face being dragged toward the open grave, nails clawing at the earth as the soil swallowed him alive. His scream was cut off mid-breath, replaced by silence. The phone kept recording for hours. Only one thing could be heard after. The scratching, over and over, scratching from beneath the grave. Weeks later, police found the phone near the gates. No sign of Daniel. But every night at midnight, people say his video plays by itself on abandoned screens in town. They say if you watch it till the end, you hear a voice whispering your name from underground. And if you listen long enough, you'll hear the scratching start right beneath your feet. It was a small countryside town where no one dared to walk past Hollow Hill Cemetery after sunset. People whispered about one particular grave at the farthest corner. Unlike the others, this grave had no name, no date, no flowers, just a plain stone slab with deep claw marks across it. One night, Claire, a young journalist, decided to investigate. She wanted a story to publish, something viral. With her recorder in one hand and flashlight in the other, she climbed over the rusty fence and entered the cemetery. The air was unnaturally still. No crickets, no wind, not even the sound of her own breathing felt real. She walked past rows of graves until she reached the nameless stone. Her light flickered, and the ground beneath her shoes vibrated faintly, as though something was moving underneath. She bent down and touched the slab. It was ice cold. Suddenly her recorder turned on by itself, and a whisper hissed from it. "Not alone. Never alone." Startled, she dropped it. That's when she noticed it. Fresh soil scattered around the grave, as if it had been disturbed. Before she could react, the stone shifted with a grinding sound, sliding open like a lid. A stench of decay filled the air. From the dark hollow, two pale hands crawled out, followed by the half-rotten face of a man with empty sockets for eyes. His jaw hung loose as he spoke in a rasping voice. "Return what was taken from me." Claire stumbled back, shaking her head. I, I didn't take anything." But the figure dragged itself out, bones cracking with each movement. The whispers around her grew louder, coming from every grave, a chorus of the dead rising. She turned to run, but the cemetery gates were gone. Where the entrance had been was now just more rows of graves, stretching endlessly. The creature pointed at her chest. Claire looked down in horror. Around her neck hung a locket she had bought earlier from an antique shop. She had thought it was harmless, but inside was a faded photo of the same man now standing before her. "You stole my rest," he growled. The earth beneath her feet opened wide, hands clawing at her ankles, pulling her down. She screamed as she sank into the soil, her flashlight the last thing visible before the ground sealed shut, leaving no trace she ever existed. The next morning, the cemetery looked the same, silent, still, and abandoned. Only one thing was different. The nameless grave now had an inscription, her name, Claire Harper, and the date of her death, last night.